All right, good evening. I'd like to call the City of Menasha Common Council 2025 Budget Review Session, Night 3 to order. If you'd please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Clerk Snyder, if we can have a roll call, please.
Alderman Rapella? Here. Alderman Nichols? Here. Alderman Eisenock? Here. Alderman Sevenik? Here. Alderman Perkins? Here. Alderman Lewis? Here. Alderman Marshall? Here. Alderman Grotti? Here. All are present.
Thank you very much. Next is item D, which is public comments on any matter of concern to the city. We just ask that you step up to the podium, state your first, last name, address, and feel free to share anything that you'd like. Is there anybody in the gallery that wishes to speak this evening? Going once, going twice. All right, does not look like you want to speak, so we'll move on. First, we have a presentation for the library, for the Elijah D. Smith Public Library for item E, so I will hand it over to our library director, Director Kubetsky.
How's everyone doing tonight? Can you hear me? Sounds like it. Okay, so thank you for having me. So we have our budget for next year. Obviously, we are in the middle of a renovation at the moment, and a lot of what has happened this year has been based on what's going on in the library, and I'll, of course, talk about all that fun stuff. So earlier on in the year, before we started the renovation process, we were doing our programming as usual. So just some of the feature programs that we had. We did our Menasha History Trivia to launch the 150th celebration. That was back in January. We had a life-size Candyland game. We've partnered with local groups to do our Zumba in the library. We had our winter reading program with the Wisconsin Herd. So that was what the Winter Reading Bingo Challenge was for. And then we had our blind date with a book. As we have shifted over to the UW Fox campus, this one is actually from, the one furthest on the left is from the the pre-renovation library. We've done our regular programming. We've done some Lego programming. Sam Krasny, our new children's librarian, has done a couple of escape rooms since he started with us. And we actually published our second fiction book this year, which is Unmapped. We are working for 2025. We probably will not do another book, but we're going to do some audio stories using, hopefully, the new recording studio at the library. So as we shifted over to the temporary location, which is kind of that larger feature picture there, if you haven't been over to the library, it is a much smaller space than what we currently, than the actual library was. But honestly, I'm pretty proud of the work that my team did to make it look like it's an on-purpose library. If you look at the space, it doesn't look like we just threw it together, which is kind of what happened. But again, because we had limited space, we were doing more programming outside of the library. So we did story times at the pool. We did a couple of outdoor movies. Actually, both of those were at the pool as well this year. This is our staff helping us move. And then we've continued on with a lot of our regular programming, which is, again, the Fiction Book Club is an example of that. So as we look at where we are as far as the library goes, again, I just can't emphasize enough that this is a screwy year because we were shut down for months. We are in a location that is not as conducive to most of our population, so our numbers are down. We expected our numbers to be down. Items checked out, we're down about 25%. I anticipate that number will go up slightly. I was expecting we could see as much as a 50% decrease overall. I think we're going to come in above that number. Library visits are down 17%. Program attendance actually took a larger hit than what I was hoping for, is down 37%. Kind of what you would expect given the situation, our use of electronic materials has actually jumped 17% this year. Again, because we're not there for the physical materials, so people jumped onto our electronic materials. Library cards, I think a lot of that was driven by, there's still 700 new cards that have been done so far this year. But a lot of that is because we haven't been able to do the school visits like we have in the past. So that's a big impactor. As we move forward, we're looking to build that relationship with the Menasha Joint School District to get the classes. We have to figure out what class, whether we do like first or second grade, come in and basically get every kid in the school system a library card so they can utilize the library to meet their learning needs. We've still answered over 32,000 questions that the public has. It's a stat that we always cite, but it's something that I always want to point out because there's questions that are like, what's the phone number for Walmart? And there's questions like, can you name me the 5-second cousins that were related to my mom's aunt? I mean, some of them take tons of research. So not one question is like the other. Some are 5 seconds, some can take an hour's worth of research. Online research is actually also up. This is something that we've been working on quite a lot, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more as we get into the rest of the presentation, in that one of our goals is in our new location and our new renovation is to tie hands-on learning to deeper learning on the back end. So for instance, you may come in and do a beginning oil painting class at the library, and then we can tie that back to some more in-depth, like a Gale course that's a 6-week course on painting or creative writing or Microsoft Excel. It's not just arts, it's also hard skills as well. So as we get into the renovation, these are the latest-ish. Prior to coming over tonight, I actually was at the library. Progress is continuing. They're actually installing bookshelves this week. So as I think I've said to some folks before, to get everything done on time, there's a ton of processes that are going on in parallel. So they're literally putting in carpet on one side of the building while they're changing out windows on the other side of the building, while they're putting furniture into a different part of the building. So there's a ton of things, and I know today in particular it became an issue to try to get everyone on the front of the building. They're trying to do a sidewalk, or do sidewalk, landscaping, welding, and put in windows all at the same time. So they're finding that there's not as much space as they thought there was to do all that stuff. So there's what this picture is here is there's actually going to be 2 meeting rooms here and here. And then this space is actually closed off now. That is the new staff for the programming team. And part of that was to, basically we want to take all of the staff that are taking up space where the public was. We want to get them out of the way so the public has more space to use on the main floor of the library. One of the things that a lot of people felt very strongly about was we call it the bibliopile. It's an art piece that was put in at the last building renovation. So that has reemerged. That is staying with the library. And right now the interior designers are going to be working on figuring out how to better integrate it into the new design. We have an outdoor patio, so there will be an outdoor space that people can utilize at the library. There will be a door right here, and then that whole area will be fenced off. There will be a safety or a security fence that goes around that people can hit like an emergency bar and move out of in case something happens in the building. But for the most part, this is only accessible from inside the building. And then the new front of the building. We have in the current, or in the, actually now it's the previous configuration, we had 2 study rooms. There will be 3 study rooms, a conference room, and then we've got the 2 smaller meeting rooms or training rooms, and then we'll still have the company E-room down on the first, or on the lower level, as well as the Geegan room, and then what used to be the maker space before we started the renovation will become a local history room. Again, just new pictures. This has actually changed since this picture. all of this, I think it's called spandrel, has been removed, and that is floor to ceiling windows now. Pictures of the new space. This will be the maker space. New entrance. For those of you who attended the renovation program over at Faith, you've already heard this, but one of the pieces, because Elisha D. Smith founded the original library, and of course Menasha Corp has been one of our, has been helping us complete this project. There's kind of an homage to Menasha Woodenware. That's why that wood and banding is on the bottom of the circulation desk as it is. So I was asked, the statue, that's Elisha D. Smith. Our art wall, which was typically over by the fireside room in the past, moves to the front or into the atrium space. It picks up a couple of feet. It's not much bigger than it was before, but it certainly did not lose any space. New children's gathering area, so we wanted to open up the story time space so it could be used for story times. One of the things that you hear both from our patrons and patrons in other libraries is when they bring their kids to story time, if they arrive a little bit late, which happens with kids because they don't always want to go work with you, they didn't want to come into a room and like disturb things. So having an open space where you can kind of come and go. And same thing if they have a child that starts acting up, they can extract them from the story time without creating too much of a fuss. So we intentionally opened up the space. Some of our story, like our main story time on Tuesdays, is going to be too large for this space, so it's going to continue being down in the company E-room because we get 80 to 100 kids for that program. So that just won't fit into this space. Again, just the what we call the spine of the library. So as we talk about next year's budget, which is why we're here, what we are requesting is just over $2 million. That's an increase of $70,762.41. A good portion of that actually is covered by an increase in county funding for next year. So just to give a little background on that, there's a couple of big changes for this year. So one of the changes is county funding for the previous renovation project actually mostly ran out last year. So we were seeing about $55,000 a year from the 2003 renovation that was coming back to the city for the city's investment in that other process. That, for the most part, finished last year. We've got about $7,000 that will come to us next year from that, but that's a net loss of $48,000 to our budget. However, there was an agreement that was made with Outagamie County this year. Previously, Winnebago and Outagamie County had a gentleman's agreement, if you will, to not bill each other for services back and forth. Since I've been, and actually this goes back to the previous director as well, we've been tracking through time that there's been more and more of a shift where it is not a wash between services rendered to the different communities. So the last time we looked at the numbers, it was about a $200,000 differential between services being given to Outagamie County versus being received by Winnebago County. So after talking about that, Outagamie County did agree that we will start billing each other back and forth now. Those bills go to the county, so you don't have to deal with them at the city level. The good news is that means that we've got about another $70,000 that comes into our budget next year, which is one of the reasons why that number didn't go down, and it actually went up. So that's money coming in from Outagamie County is what makes up the large portion of that. So what we're seeing in the increased costs for next year, the vast majority of those costs are made up from wage increases, and that's simply the step increases that were kind of done across the city last year, and then the COLA cost of living increase for next year. We also had employee benefits went up. Again, just the natural rising cost of healthcare. And then we did have a staff member who was eligible for the family plan that hadn't taken it in the past. They did decide to take it for next year as they're eligible to do. Contract services, I guess this is as good a place as any to point this out. So some of the, I shouldn't say some, a lot of our costs for next year are honestly just being anticipated. We don't know what it's going to cost in this new setting for everything. We expect that most of those costs will go down, but we didn't want to artificially suppress that and then find out, hey, we're under budget for everything. So, for instance, with this year, we're looking to come in about $50,000 under budget. That money, if we don't spend it, it comes back to the city. And that's the only thing I would say with this as well. If we don't need it, it's going to come back. It's not like we're just going to use it to use it. So contract services, we do anticipate our cleaning fees, even before the renovation, have been going up fairly substantially each year. The companies that do the cleaning, that run the cleaning services have found that it's harder and harder to find staff, so they have to pay staff more, and they pass those costs on to us. So that's mostly what that is from. There is a chunk that's put into programming. Again, we expect we're going to do a lot of programming next year. We want to feature the space. We want to have the public come in and utilize the space as much as possible. So there was a $2,000 increase in there. Utilities we expect in the future will go down, but again, it's one of those things where we know next year is going to be not as efficient. The heating and cooling engineer that I spoke with said it takes about 6 to 12 months to dial in the system to get everything running the way you want it. It just won't be as efficient until then. So again, we're just hedging our bets to make sure that we don't come in over budget on any of these items. Municipal payments, that's just an increased cost from Winnifox. They have been holding their costs down so we pay, last year was a little over $80,000. Next year's going to be about $84,000. They've been trying to hold their costs down or hold their costs flat. It's just getting to the point where, again, inflation affects them just like it does everyone else. Costs go up. Repair and maintenance, this is one of those lines we expect to go down substantially. We've got basically a new building. We're hopefully not going to need to do any maintenance on it, although there are going to be costs for ongoing maintenance and various maintenance agreements. Professional services, that line mainly drops. We have been using a collection agency, so when people don't return library materials, we sic the collection agency on them to get that money back. What we had found out, we actually suspended that service last year. And again, it's one of those things where we would love to get our stuff back. We would love to get compensated for it, but it was costing us almost 3 times more in what we're paying the service than what they were collecting. So the return on investment just was not there. So we're exploring some ways to do that without basically paying out a ton of money to services. One of the options available is Wisconsin Department of Revenue offers, they call it the TRIP program. It's tax interrupt, so basically if someone has a larger bill, we send it to the Department of Revenue and they will extract it from the person's tax return the following year. Library supplies, again, this is one of those things where we've got a lot of new materials that are coming into the building literally right now. So we don't anticipate spending as much on furniture, tools, computers, all of those things. But I also want to put it out there that once we are done with this, we have to get all of those things back into a rotation so we can replace them as they meet end of use. So these lines will not stay lowered forever. Training is just reflecting the usage. We've been leaning towards doing more things online versus traveling to different events. And frankly, after COVID, there haven't been as many face-to-face events as there used to be. So as we look at what we're doing with the support that we get from the city, I think one of the things that we're really looking forward to next year is kind of bringing all the things that I've been talking about since starting at the library home, in that the library, first and foremost, is a learning center. It's a skill development center. And we want to be able to do that not just in the library, but basically across every aspect of our community members' lives. So in this case, I'm going to use the employment resources because we are putting a fairly large emphasis on that. So we will have electronic resources. We'll be collecting and working with local partners to offer resume help, job search help, and then hopefully there's a program out there that actually lets us port people over to Department for Workforce Development. That's one of those, hopefully we'll see that. They turned us down for next year because we weren't in place yet, but that's something that we want to see develop. Skill building, we expect, or we will continue to support and have resources for, again, Gale courses. We are looking to have a subscription to LinkedIn Learning. So Gale courses offer 6-week courses. They feel very much like a tech school level course. The LinkedIn Learning, those are more like quick hit courses. It's a couple hours between 1 and 6 hours of whether it be Photoshop or painting or Microsoft Office, what have you. They've got, I think, 35,000 classes at this point. And the nice thing is they're free for anyone in the community. We pay a flat fee for them, so the more people that use this, the better it is for us. That's also true for Gale courses. That's actually paid for by Winnifox, our library system. We want people to use it. I've had people come up and apologize to me because they'll use one of or take a Gale course and they're like, life got busy, I couldn't finish the class, I only got through 4 weeks. And we're like, you got 4 weeks of learning, it's fine. Use it, take another course, just keep using it because it doesn't cost us any different. There are models where we would pay by course, but again, because so many people end up not finishing them out, it just doesn't make sense financially for us to go that way. And then the big piece that ties into the renovation is when we move back to the library, all of our meeting rooms will have telepresence technology built into them. So every room will have a camera, an array microphone, so it's a special microphone that can sense who's talking in the room. Basically what that will allow us to do is hold online meetings, and in particular the focus there is on online interviews and things like that. So we'll have 3 spaces where that can happen, and then 2 meeting rooms where larger groups can meet and talk basically all across the planet. New thing for next year, we'll be offering 2 summer camps. So these summer camps, again, the Lego camp, we're not quite sure how we're going to run that one just yet. That might be a Monday for 5 weeks, but it's not just building Legos, it's actually taking STEM curriculum and looking at coding and all kinds of different pieces to build different, 21st century literacy. So it's problem solving, it's conflict resolution, it's all basically things you would see in school, but it's fun, it's Legos, the kids seem to enjoy it. The Lego programming we've been doing to this point has been very well received, so we wanted to give this a shot. And then the kids cooking camp, that one will be just running for a week, and it's mainly focused on basic cooking skills for kids that are 9 and up. Focus on healthy eating habits, things like that. So we're taking advantage of the Learning Kitchen that will be in the lower level, and of course we'll offer other cooking classes as well. So just kind of a handful of things that we'll be seeing next year. Again, cooking classes. We're going to be working with a local community group that does repair cafes. So if you're not familiar, a repair cafe, basically community members can come in with their toaster, their vacuum, whatever appliance they have that isn't working for them anymore, they can bring that in, and the people from the Repair Cafe group will help them fix that item so it doesn't go back to the landfill. It's not, again, we've kind of become a use it and throw it away society. We want to change some of that around and hopefully keep some of these things from going out of use as quickly. We have the new features for the makerspace. We will have a sound booth. It won't quite look like that. It looks pretty cool though. We have our laser cutter, 3D printers, things that we've had in the past. Again, with the community funding that we've received, has allowed us to upscale a lot of those materials. So we're really looking forward to the capabilities we'll have. For instance, the laser cutter sounds like a little thing, but we can run it whenever we want now because we'll actually have a vent that goes to the outside instead of having to filter everything out in the building, which really limited how much we could use it. Painting classes, I'm looking forward to some ceramics and glass classes that will be available because we'll have a water cutter now, so we don't have to worry about people cutting themselves. We'll have a machine that can help us out with that. And then another big piece that I had talked about last year at this time was kind of doubling down on our literacy efforts. Obviously, and you guys know from all the special meetings we had to have, that the building project moved much, much faster than I ever anticipated it would. I honestly thought that the soonest we would start construction would have been next year, and here we're going to be done with construction yet this year. So some of the things we had to push some things back. One of the things was some of the work we wanted to do around literacy. Again, our goal is to create a learning center in our community that allows our patrons, our community members, to explore whatever the hell it is they want to explore. We want them to feel like they're empowered to do art or do STEM or whatever it is that drives their interests. But in order for that to happen effectively, they have to be able to read. And we want to make sure that those base level reading skills are really instilled, reinforced, and made fun for those first, they say about 9 years of life. About through third grade is when you make that transition from your learning to read to reading to learn. So in our heads we see we're building literacy skills, we're helping kids learn how to read, and then once they hit that 9-ish range, and again, it's about reading level more than age, but once they can learn to, or read to learn, then they can take advantage of all the other cool stuff that we're doing. So we want to make sure that our community members can do that. So to do that, because what we do at the library isn't compulsory, it's not like the school district where all the kids have to go to school, we do need to make it fun. So we make efforts to make learning fun at the library. And that is it. Do you guys have questions for me? Yes.
Alderman Perkins?
So the classes that you have, the art classes and stuff like that, is that a revenue stream? Is there money that comes in, or is that free to the public?
It is free, and it is actually statutorily required that library programming be free. We cannot charge for it.
Alderman
So
Grady?
I just want to clarify that just a little bit because I don't want to misspeak. All library program does have to be free. We could charge for materials that are used in our programs. I am very much against that because the people that I feel like we need to reach the most, that need the most help in our community, are the ones that can't afford those materials. So you're kind of pushing away the people who really kind of need, I'm all for people lifting themselves up by their bootstraps, but I want to help them, I want to give them some bootstraps to pull themselves up by.
Well said. Alderman Grady?
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, I see that, your budget of $2 million or whatever it is for next year, more than half is salaries and fringes and stuff. It's kind of hard to control. But I do notice your library materials, you're going to budget about 220,000 is what you did last year, and we as aldermen see the check register and all the expenses and all the library materials purchased. Is the purchasing of those library materials going to kind of be the same as they were last year? Are you trending towards different things? I seem that like the 220 seems a little low, but you have a better idea of what that would be. So I don't know if the focus is switching to different materials.
Yeah, it is. So I do anticipate that we've been holding it fairly flat. That's intentional because, we don't want to propose a budget that it just isn't feasible. At the same time, that works. I mean, if by the time the year end hits, as we're hitting it now, we'll come in a little bit light on that budget. Again, we're in a space that we can't hold as many books. But on the opposite end of that, we are going to be placing a deeper or larger order right at the end of the year. So when we open come next year, later in the winter, we'll have new materials for our patrons to use. To get better at your point, what we're seeing as a trend is we are intentionally focused on programming and working with our people hands-on. So that's one piece. Within the materials line itself, one of the things that, as you look deeper into it, you'll notice that there's fewer physical materials, in particular DVDs. DVDs and CDs are two collections, and audiobooks are collections that are basically being phased out. It's it's a long tail. It's going to take a while before they're completely phased out, but we're doing a little bit less of that each year. And a lot of that's driven by the market. There just literally are not materials for us to buy, even if we wanted to. What happens on the other end of that, though, is there's more use for, like I showed you, the digital collection use for the Libby product that we have. That is held statewide. All of those uses are just a flat fee that we pay. Our other account, which is called Hoopla, that is a per usage charge, and that fee has been going up every year. So it's one of those things where we're always having that internal discussion of, is this a good use of our funding? Because it is a per use usage. Are the right people using it? So one of the things we started doing this year is we're screening out people that are not in our area. So for instance, we had a handful of patrons that were in La Crosse, Madison, places that just had really no affiliation with the Fox Cities, that were just getting accounts with us so they could use those Hoopla accounts and use the credits in there. So we're like, okay, you go, you're gone. And that was actually system-wide. Nina was having an even larger issue with that. But again, we're looking at that every year saying, okay, is this the right way for us to use our funds? And again, there's that piece of it where we want people utilizing the library, we want people utilizing our materials, and we want people to continue to learn. And we've found ways to kind of link in what we have on Hoopla to kind of pull people back into the library. So we might emphasize some things like cookbooks. Say, okay, well, here's these cookbooks. And by the way, we're doing egg rolls in the library. Come make them for yourself.
Piggyback a little bit what Alderman Perkins was talking about, programs that maybe the library can make some money in. A couple slides ago, you had that recycle workshop where somebody has a vacuum cleaner that's not working, so they bring it in. Would you charge the end user then, say, hey, we fixed it, can you donate to the library because of that? I don't know what your intentions are, because you don't have a technician or mechanics there, but
right.
What's the thought process?
So again, because we're working with an outside organization that comes in and does this, and they have their own 501c3 status, and they also come in with liability insurance for us. So in case said vacuum cleaner goes home and burns down their house, we don't have to worry about it. We would not charge because, again, we're not the ones, we're providing the space for it, we're providing marketing for it, but we're not providing the actual service. But again, to try to address the point better, we have and will continue to make pitches at our programs to say, hey, if you'd like to make a donation to help cover this, we would like to do that. Another piece that I didn't talk about because it's an idea at this point, but one of the things I think is a viable idea based on some of the conversations we've had is to do craft fairs or like a craft market at the library, and then we can charge for like the tables, and we can even have things like 3D prints that we make in the makerspace and sell those, and we can pull in some revenue. How much that is, it's probably not, huge amounts of money, but
Okay. No,
and we do have our Friends group who does provide some of the funding for those programs as well.
and lastly, would like to thank you from the city of Menasha and our end for the renovation and the projects that you did this year to get that fundraising and have the library turn into a more of a modern type thing of the future and super place for the young kids to learn and stuff. So I appreciate that, Brian.
Well, we appreciate the support from the city. It's been a whirlwind of a year, and I'm sure that probably won't let up anytime soon.
Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you. First thing is I have like 4 or 5 items here.
Okay.
So your promotional items now, as Alderman Grotti was talking about accounts payable and payroll, I've had some issues with us. I don't know if this is where it is, but that we provide subscription to cables type services. I don't understand that. You need to sell me on that because I just don't think that's something that the library should be providing
So the way those services are
for
operated,
the taxpayers.
I understand. The way we handle those services, what they are is they go out as part of a bundle with a local Wi-Fi connection, or it's actually a cellular connection. So this is for patrons in our community who do not have any sort of internet service at home. So they can utilize the internet, but then they can also see what is available and see what services are available. They can only check these items out for 2 weeks. So it's not like we're giving someone Hulu for the duration. They get to try this out for 2 weeks and decide whether they want to continue on with it. I will say it's something that even I struggled with when I came into the library, because this is the first library I've been that's offered a service like this. It is a very meaningful collection or item for our patrons to have. A lot of people have spoken to me about it. A lot of people have utilized it, and most haven't abused it. I will say that, yeah, there's some that are those items, they go out and then the person tries to just hold on to them. And what we do, we get a notice after 2 weeks saying that this item has not come back, and then we shut it off and wait for it to come back. So it fills a need in particular for the internet service, but we do offer those other services with it to just, I guess, normalize some of the use that most of us have available to us in our house.
Still not sold. How about, I have written down subscription services, and I can't find what I was looking at. Is there subscription services on here?
We have all kinds of subscriptions, so.
Oh, that's what I meant, those things. Okay, that's why I had that written down. Okay. Specialized equipment. What are you looking for that we don't already have?
So specialized equipment, some of the way that I guess I've inherited some of the budget items. In our case, specialized equipment pays for the lease for our photocopier. So it's not really super specialized.
I was thinking you were looking at maybe another type of laser printer or 3D
Nope.
printer or those kind of things, so, okay.
So most of those items I do try to pay for with grant funding or
Okay.
Friends funding when I can.
And then, seeing that we just literally spent a fortune on the library, you still have office furnishings. You would think that you would, with all the money that's been donated, plus the overrun that has been donated, that we wouldn't have to have $2,500 in our budget.
I would like,
And that's down from before, which, you know, that's encouraging because of what I just said, but I would think that you wouldn't really need anything, seeing you just got everything and more.
okay. So let me kind of reverse it
Okay.
and say, have you moved into a new place and you thought you had everything you needed, and then you get moved in and you're like, oh, I need this thing and I need that thing. That's what that's for. It's for all of those things that we think that we've got most of those pieces covered, but I'll give you an example of one that I know that we are going to need. In the initial design of the library in the 2 meeting rooms, there was no plan. We didn't expect that we would need any sort of furniture, storage furniture in that space. But because we did decide we're going to put in that teleconferencing material, we will have to have something to put those things in so they don't disappear on us. So we'll have to buy something.
Yeah, my concern is that you received a lot of money and you went over even what you had expected by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm, you know, being a,
I haven't seen the final number, so I'm not sure where you're getting that we're over hundreds of thousands of dollars.
you know, you well over what you originally had anticipated and budgeted. Plus, you added that additional money for, in case you had to use the UW system a little longer than anticipated. So there's funds. So just, I mean, nobody likes anything to be taken from their budget, but that's my job here. And when I see that there's something that I feel is already being taken care of and that there are other resources for, I'm going to be looking at that. But I never make those cuts or do anything until I talk to those department heads about it.
I guess I would just reiterate that if we find that we don't need funds, we don't use them.
Yeah, but if it's part of the levy, I don't want to charge the taxpayers for it, because then that'll be just put into something else from the general fund at some other point the following year. So that's all I have. Thank you. I echo what Alderman Grady said. I think the community is going to be very proud of their new library. I just can't, you know, I see the pictures of the kids' faces and stuff, and I've noticed this myself here, your demeanor too. You are extremely happy and excited, and I think you're looking forward to 2025. And
Absolutely. And
I wish you and your staff all the best, and I think we're all very fortunate in the city of Menasha that we're able to do this, especially, as you indicated, about a year earlier than we were planning for.
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. In the former children's section, there was space dedicated to members of our community whose first language is not English. And my question is, will that continue going forward? And has any, and maybe this already happens as well, if it's expanded to adult level things as well, materials?
Yes to both. So we will continue on with the foreign language collection. It's heavily Latinx. Because again, that represents our community that we see here, but there are, I think we've got about 14 languages that are represented within that group. Some of it is honestly just for those parents who want to expose their kids to other languages and other cultures. So it doesn't necessarily, typically those are books on different holidays and things like that. For the adult collection, that is one that we have had an adult collection for some time. That collection is very underutilized. And what we have found is for the people in our community, what we're seeing is their focus is on assimilating into our culture and reading English books. So there's some pivot in there towards English as a second language materials, but we will continue, probably not quite as in-depth, but we will continue with that collection.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions this evening for our library director? Seeing none, I just want to thank you for taking time to give your budget presentation. We'll transition here and give Chief Tesh an opportunity to give the budget review for Neenah Menasha Fire. And then I would encourage you all to go to page 235 while he's getting set up. There should be a button on it. Oh.
I'm not a tech guy, so. I'm an old farm boy. I'm not a technology type of person, so. Well, thanks for the opportunity here tonight. What I'd like to do over the next several hours is go over, see, there's no reason we can't have fun. I want to go over some of a brief presentation of the highlights of our budget and kind of what it all means. Maybe. I think I just turned it off.
I think you have to point at the other. There you go.
All right. So just to start, our Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue, we operate with some core values: integrity, dedication, compassion, tradition, teamwork, courage. So I kept those in the forefront as we started going through our budget this year and guiding through that whole process. And to me, a budget is a plan. It's a planning document that we want to use this year, but in the future. So it's a living thing that I refer to often and try to set up. So that this year, or for the 2025 budget, we're going to be focusing on our standard operating guidelines, our policies, our procedures, professional development, and bringing accreditation into the fire department. So real briefly on the accreditation piece, you might think this is a buzzword now or something in the fire service or elsewhere, but I really see it as something that kind of is akin to when we started having to do things like taking our weapons of mass destruction courses or our NIMS courses. They kind of started out as, well, if you have this, good for you, you're ahead of the curve, and then it became, well, if you want to apply for this grant, you need to have your NIMS course or your weapons of mass destruction taken. And I really see accreditation kind of leaning or going down that path. So it's something I want to be on the forefront of. So really it's a way for us to measure our effectiveness, our efficiency. It'll help us determine our future needs. Part of it'll bring in, it'll help us do community risk assessments. Essentially what it's going to do is help us learn to use data and take that data and figure out how we move the department forward and we keep our policies and our SOGs up to date to federal standards, state standards, in compliance with local ordinances. So into the budget part now. So to start with, for the 2025 budget, I wanted to look at the 2024 budget, right? 2024 budget is roughly $9.9 million. 40% of that is, roughly 40% is the Menasha share, right? So as I looked at our budget, kind of became clear that we have three basic categories of spending. I called it wages, that's $9.2 million, a big part of our budget, right? Non-discretionary spending, stuff I really don't have control over. We have contracts for stuff, we have IT services that we need, we have, we pay I think printer was just mentioned in the library. We have a rental fee for printers and stuff like that. So that comes out to about $370,000 of our budget. And then we have stuff that's discretionary, for janitorial supplies, even through EMS supplies in there, those kind of things. Stuff where I can control the costs really hard. And that's only $320,000 of our budget. I know if you do the math or whatever, that's 9.89 million, but I'm rounding here, bear with me. So of that 320, really the bulk of it just comes from two things. 75,000 of our 24 budget was for PPE, our personal protective equipment, helmets, turnout gear, boots. That'll also include ballistic gear that we have to now wear on calls for swatting calls, for rescue task force stuff we didn't do 30 years ago. And then 125,000 of that is for vehicle maintenance. So really of the 320, like 200,000 are for really two big items. So I say all this because when we look at our budget, the levy limits only are going to allow our budget to go up $520,000. Early on in the budget, I put in for new staff or additional staff. Came pretty clear between talks with the mayor and everybody else. This isn't going to happen. There's no way we can reach that far. So that came out. We're left with realizing our budget can only go up by $520,000. Well, those first two categories, the wages and benefits, the non-discretionary items, the contracts we have and things like that, that's going up $560,000. So I'm already starting $40,000 in the hole looking to cut from that pile of 320 where we can control stuff. So what's changing in the 2024 or 2025 budget? Well, not much, but actually a lot, because we want to use Lexipol. It's a platform that a lot of police departments use that monitor and help us develop and write our SOGs and our department policies. They'll actually take the department policies we have. They use lawyers and will help us write them so they are in compliant with federal standards, state standards, and they'll even look at the municipal codes for both cities. It's basically a way to cover yourself if you're ever sued, or in our case, we're going to use this as our push to accreditation, right? These are some of the ducks we're going to get in order so that we can line up for accreditation. That accreditation thing is about a 5-year process, really from start to finish, by the time we go through it. But if we don't have policies that kind of cover everything and SOGs that give our department standard operations across our 4 stations, 3 shifts, so you can think of that as 12 different units that we all got to make sure sync up and line up right. We're never going to get near the path to accreditation. So that's Lexipol for $25,170.
I think Alderman Nichols had a question.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Sorry.
you. I just want to stop right there so we remember what you're talking about instead of later. The Lexipol item, is that an item that would be for 2025 and then falls off?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I was just going to hit that.
Oh.
It's a subscription, right? It's a service that we pay for, and because they actually take our current SOGs and kind of rewrite them for us and format them for us.
Abbreviations.
What's that?
Yeah, stop using abbreviations.
Okay.
SOG.
They're going to take our standard operating guidelines. I apologize. And you know, it's not like they just give us some canned product off the shelf. They're going to use ours. So the first 2 years, it costs us the $25,000. In year 3, that price will drop to $11,500 because the bulk of it, the first 2 years, is rewriting our policies and the hours that go into redoing that. And then after that, we're on their subscription platform, and what they do is when they give us our SOGs back or a policy back to us, it'll go out to our firefighters, and they'll read through it, and they'll actually have to take a little test at the end. You know, so a SOG on cancer presumption stuff, cleaning your turnout gear after a fire to reduce the risk of getting cancer, right? There'll be a little 3-question test at the end of that will show that they not only read it, but that they can comprehend and understand that. So that's like another check or a balance to say all of our people have the comprehensive knowledge for that. So at year 2, that price drops down to $11,000.
Looks like Alderman Rapella has a question as well.
Mayor, Travis, one thing, you mentioned accreditation. Why is that so important? I can tell you what my insurance guy says, but you tell me.
Yeah, so kind of went through a little bit of it. I was trying to, I probably rushed through it. I see it as important because it helps us measure our efficiency, effectiveness, and stuff like that. But I really see in the future, and in the not too distant future, where accreditation is going to be tied to stuff like if we want to apply for a fire grant. We used to apply for a fire grant and they just took your application and read it. Now if our people don't have the NIMS certification, that's the National Incident Management Safety courses, officers have to have like 100, 200, 700, and 800. Line firefighters just need like 700 and 800. If we don't have that and a record of that, our grant, we can't even apply for the grant when we apply for some of these things. And I would say over the last 3-4 years, maybe we're close to $1 million in grants. One of them being the PLIME event recently at Station 35. You know, a cancer presumption grant got us, I think it was around $30,000 to do that project. That was in the books for a capital expense, but was able to be taken off because we got it covered in a grant. I think Station 36 was built off of a grant. So, you know, at the time it was like a $2 million fire station. So the cost of getting accredited is not that much as far as like what you have to pay for it for the accreditation. I think it's $700, but there's cost in people hours of going through and making sure your SOGs, your standard operating guidelines, and your policies all match, that you have policies for certain things, that you meet standards even in your buildings. One thing we're finding out right now when we're remodeling Station 31 over in Neenah, we have to put in a nursing mother's room by new building codes, right? It wasn't on our radar, but when you go through the accreditation process, you're going to realize that, hey, that's something you have to have. So,
How many nursing mothers do you have?
right now in the fire department,
Yeah.
0.
I
Okay.
think we need to be
But-
asking that.
Okay, understood. Okay, yeah, my insurance guy, I just talked to him, I just paid my bill in October. Accreditation means nothing to lowering my insurance rate, so what I pay.
He's going to get grants. He's
Well,
got to get accredited.
yeah. How many fires do you actually have a year, Travis?
Well, we've had 2 this week. 2 in Neenah, Menasha this week, both on Monday. We assisted Appleton in one last night. I'm assuming, maybe I should ask. You're asking firefighters, or fires, smoke out?
Yes.
Yes. So 2 this week, both on Monday. Helped Appleton on last night with 1. I'm bad at math, so bear with me.
Okay.
I'm going to pull up my calculator. Yeah, there's the monthly report and there's the yearly report. We go on 4,000 calls a year and 20%, 15% are fire calls.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can we just have one person at a time for decorum? Alderman Repella, are you done?
Yeah, I am done.
All right, super, thank you. Alderman Sevenik.
Thank you. I just kind of want to reply to that because we get a monthly report, and in that report, like the chief said, there's calls different from just, people think it's just fires, and it's not. And we have most of our calls are for first responders. But along with that, the fires are broken down into different categories too. So there may be during a month where a category, and you can help me, Chief, with this as far as the category, there may be only 5 or 6 major fires a month. But there's also several, like, I don't want to say minor because there's no minor fires, but there's stove fires. There's small apartment trash fires or things like that that they reply to. And if they don't respond to those, they could turn into not being 5 or 6, but turning into 10, 11, 12. So that's the way I've always looked at it. Yeah, they're not going out to every major fire, but there's so many other things, like first responders, you know, you don't appreciate it. I know Ted does. You don't appreciate it until that service is provided to you. And I know in my neighborhood, there was a situation where, you know, a life was saved. That's what's important. And yeah, I agree with Randy with the certification as far as what I had always been told about your insurance rate. They don't care, and he's right. I'll defend him on that. Because I also did the same thing. I talked to my agent and I talked to another guy I knew who sold insurance and didn't even know what that even meant, what certification was. So, but could you also, during this time, explain where we are with that? Because we did just get an upgrade with our certification here in Menasha and Neenah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we are an ISO 1 community. There's only 10 of those in Wisconsin. And when you're thinking insurance rates, it's ISO that really counts, not accreditation. And ISO really won't give a homeowner a break, but it's more for businesses. And you're right. I've asked insurance agents point out blank, if we go from a 3 to a 2 or a 2 to a 1, what does that equal in dollar value savings for your insurance premiums? And they kind of give you the, well, it depends, you know, how far away from a hydrant are you and what, you know, but it is something that we can use to promote in our communities. If a business wants to relocate here or a startup business wants to come here, we can tell them, hey, you know, you're coming to one of 10 cities in Wisconsin that is ISO 1 rated. That means our fire departments, our fire apparatus are going to get to your place within the national standard. It means our water department is going to be able to supply the hydrants with, you know, X amount of gallons of water, which meets the national standards on that thing. So that's kind of where that comes in. And to your point about our calls, yeah, it's a tough industry because we don't schedule our calls. They come in when they come in, and we have to be ready, you know, 365, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We just have to be ready to go. You know, right now I'm kind of praying for one to come in. Nothing serious or anything, just so you can hear the sirens go by as I'm talking. But, you know, we don't choose when we come in, but I can tell you this, during our downtime, we do things like train, and we do things like public education, right? And training hours is one of the ways we got our ISO 1. Everybody on our fire department has 242 hours, training hours a year in different categories of things. So, The Office 365 product.
Chief, I think we have one last question, and then we'll let you continue with the presentation. Alderman Perkins?
So looking here, you were able to secure over $750,000 worth of grants this last year without the accreditation, right?
Yeah.
But the accreditation would give you an opportunity to be open for more? Is that the
It's my personal feeling that accreditation will start to become a kind of a box you have to check when you apply for these grants that'll move your grant or your application to the top of the list. It's not there right now, and I'm just really basing this off of nothing more than what I saw happen with the NIMS classes and the weapons of mass destruction 15, 20 years ago. And the buzz around the fire service, you know. We get together as chiefs and we talk and we kind of look where trends are, and we talk to state politicians and, if we're lucky, some federal politicians. And
I would congratulate you on $750,000 worth of grants. Are you doing the grant writing?
well, thank you. No, that is a team effort. That's everybody within the fire department and support from people, you know, outside the fire department, other agencies in both cities, from attorney offices to the water departments to, you know, a lot of these grants, we have to go looking for information. I think I had to find from planning and development or community development how many square or how many acres are in the city, right? That's a question on some of our grants that we write. How many miles of road are in our city? And you got to get it pretty close, because somehow they have a way to check it, but they don't have a way to help me fill it out when we're doing it. That's on our own.
Well, thank you for that. And so $1 million this coming year?
We'll try, right? AFG opens up in January here, so we'll see what we can throw out there.
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. If I may, Chief, I would just add that $727,000 of those grants came from, were awarded by Winnebago County as part of their disbursement of American Rescue Plan funds. And I was on the board when that happened. Thank you.
That was the tower grant and the radio grant. Thank you.
Yes, and that was a lot of hard work. It really was, so good job.
That's hard stuff.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
So Office 365, yeah, here we are. We're going into 2025, and not all of our people have that. And when we start doing things like writing lesson plans, right now all of our training documents are in a JPR format, a job performance review, I should use less acronyms, right? JPRs, job performance reviews, checklists that we can just pull out of a filing cabinet and we go training, we hit this, we hit this, we hit this. Part of us going to accreditation, we're going to have to learn how to walk away from those and start, well, combining that with lesson plans. And it's hard to write lesson plans when our people do not have access to Word documents to get in there and write the lesson plans. So we got a template all set up where a captain, if he wants to take his company out for the day and work on ladders, and he can write a lesson plan with an objective and the equipment needed and kind of turn it in and help us track that, because we need to track that for accreditation. He really can't do it right now. He's got to call one of the chiefs or our shift commanders who have access to Office 365 and, hey, can you help me write a lesson plan and then print it for me, and then we go from there. So I want to get our staff to all have Office 365. So of the 63 people, that 14.5 is split amongst 63 people that don't have it, or 60 people, because the 3 shift commanders do have it. So just thinking back that $40,000 deficit we're starting with, so now we want to add a couple things, but we're already kind of in the hole to start with, and where we're going to get some money from. Our PPE line, that $75,000 that was in our budget in 2024, it's growing to $125,000 for 2025 because we need ballistic gear. When I first started, we did not have to wear body armor to go on EMS calls, emergency medical service calls. Now if we go out with RTF, Rescue Task Force, we have to put ballistic gear on and be with it. So our engines carry ballistic gear. And when we first got it, the PDs in both communities were happy to help us, and they gave us some of their old ballistic gear. Well, unbeknown to us, ballistic gear has an expiration life, and all the ballistic gear we have is past its life expectancy. We might have known that if we had gone through the accreditation process and they would tell us, hey, you know your ballistic gear has expiration dates, check this stuff out. Well, we found it out throughout the course of this year. We're looking to replace at least half of it, and it's $50,000. That and along with the other gear we need when we bring on new people. So what we're doing, and our turnout gear lasts 10 years, so you can make an argument that it should be in capital. What we are doing is we're moving it over to the capital side of things for our turnout gear, our PPE purchases. So working together with Jennifer, I think we're gonna use ARPA funds or ARPA interest, or was it just, we're gonna propose to use ARPA interest to cover that PPE for 2025.
I'm going to pause you right there. Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. When you say ballistic protective gear, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Bulletproof vests, what does that all entail?
Bulletproof vest, just like the police wear. It's the Kevlar vest with ceramic or a metal plate in the chest and in the back to cover the vitals.
And this is a new professional requirement of all firefighters?
Yeah. So all the area fire departments, Winnebago County, Outagamie County, we have teams, rescue task force teams, where we paired up with police departments, local police agencies. The idea, the thinking, the evolution behind this, if I take you back 20-some years to the Columbine shooting and those early days of those mass shooting incidents, the police went in and cleared the scene, and then they let EMS come in and do their work. And while they held the scene and before it was cleared, people that were injured and could have been saved were simply dying because they lost too much blood. So now we wear body armor. We go in a stack behind the police officers. They give us cover. We provide a quick treatment or triage, and as that team advances, the second team comes in and grabs the person and gets them out to definitive care a lot sooner.
But my question is, this isn't something that our department and neighboring departments came up with. This is a requirement coming from somewhere else, higher up, like a state requirement or national requirement,
yeah.
National standards.
Yep. Yeah, a whole change in philosophy in how police departments, fire departments are working together to mitigate these incidents for the best outcomes possible.
Thank you. I can't imagine carrying any more stuff. I mean, that's heavy, heavy stuff. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenik?
Thank you. You talked about this 1-year payment, right, for the ARPA interest? And then how long is the PPE equipment good for then? And then also, how is NENA funding it? And then our ARPA interest that we're using is the 39%?
Yeah, it's the 38.88% for your share. NENA is funding it by putting it, I think, right into their capital.
Okay.
So it's not, I don't think it was ARPA. I think we were ARPA over here, and they're going to be just straight up capital borrowing for it. NFPA gives a life expectancy of 10 years for your gear, and hopefully you get to the full 10. What we did leave about $10,000 in a PPE line, because if we get a tear, we can repair it, we can sew it up along the way, and it can be retested and recertified, but the life expectancy is 10 years.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so questions?
We're all done.
Any other questions for Chief?
Thanks, Chief.
Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation and answering our questions.
Yeah.
Oh, we do have another one, Alderman Rapella.
Thank you. So Travis, we were down 45,000 or 40,000. So now with all your figuring and things like that, how did we close that gap?
Moving the PPE stuff out into capital, from operating over to capital. And then we went through the budget and we cut some lines by $1,000, some by $250. I mean, we cut back on office supplies. We're cutting back on EMS supplies by a couple $1,000 because we reached an agreement with Gold Cross Ambulance where they are now going to help reimburse us for the supplies we used. I think we came to a realization that we're the only ambulance service they're ever going to have contact with. So if we're using a pair of gloves, if we use a nasal cannula, we should just be getting it, I don't want to say reimbursed, restocked from them. It's not like there's a second or a third ambulance in this area that ever uses our stuff and we don't know where it goes. Everything we use benefits them. So we worked out a little deal there where we're going to cut down on our EMS supply budget. And one of the bigger things, our training tower, maintenance on the training tower, slash that by $13,000 just because we have the grant for $500,000. We're going to be expecting to build a new tower. So we'll limp that baby along as we can here because we're building a new one. So, we cut that from like $15,000 down to $2,000. Well, that might not be the right number, but it was about $13,000.
Got it, Travis. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, so I know these are long nights and everything, and I thank you for your time. And if you got any more questions, I think you guys know how to get a hold of me, right? Okay.
All right.
Phone number.
Yeah. Right? We'll be there. We can't schedule that.
Thank you very much, Chief. And next we'll move on to the Health Department presentation. There's numerous pages for you to go to, but I'd recommend flipping over to page 300 while Director Hutter gets set. Are we all set? Looks like so. So I'll direct everyone over to Director Hutter for the City of Menasha Health Department presentation.
See if we can get it again. Oh, sweet. Okay. Hello, everyone. I am happy to be here again for the second time to talk all about the health department now, since we have already talked about the senior center. I will be doing pretty much the same structure as we've done in previous years. So we have a lot of different budgets, some smaller than others. So we'll hit all of them and about a slide or two for each one. So starting off with just a quick overview here of our department. We're actually going through a strategic planning process right now, and we hope to have a plan written by about February of next year, but one of the first phases is re-looking at our mission, vision, values. So what you see here are actually brand new. We just voted on these as staff. So our new mission is similar to our old, but a little bit condensed. So it is to protect and promote health and safety across the lifespan in partnership with our community. Our vision, what we would like to see in our community, is a safe, healthy, and thriving community. And our values are collaboration, equity, accessibility, communication, and trust. I just continue to leave in these models or frameworks as kind of a refresher and a level set for public health as sort of a discipline. So this first framework is public health activities that communities should be doing, should adopt, and focus on all people in all communities. So our health department plays a part in this wheel. The second, the foundational public health services, is focused on local health departments and what is sort of like a minimum set of standards, what we should all be providing to our communities as a health department. So all of our services fit somewhere in this model. This is just our org chart. Voters are always at the top as our common council and our mayor providing us direction. And then this is just all of our staff under here, including the senior center staff on the lower right-hand side. Our governing body is the Board of Health, as you know, and then on the senior center side, we also have the Committee on Aging. So this is the, updated list of our various budgets or programs. The two in red over on the right-hand side are our last two remaining dollars that kind of come from that COVID funding stage, this COVID vaccination and ARPA dollars. So these are all of the budgets that we'll go through, and we are starting with the health department budget, so page 302. Here. The Menasha Health Department is still a level 3 health department as designated by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. Wisconsin is a little different than other states in that we have different levels of designations for our local health departments. Level 3 is considered the highest, or maybe the most robust, or provides the most comprehensive services and internal workings. And our health department provides, kind of separate two sides here. We have public health specifically for the city of Menasha, of course, and that includes all of our communicable disease control, our surveillance and investigation, any work that we do in chronic disease or injury prevention, our nursing home visiting program, immunizations, all community health improvement planning, and then of course working with the Board of Health, and then the Committee on Aging for the Senior Center. And then we also provide school health services for the Menasha Joint School District. So we have 4 nurses that are each assigned a school or 2 that they are responsible for. And we do comprehensive school nursing, so health screening and education, immunization compliance, those students that come down during the day that need to have an illness or an injury addressed, we do all of that along with our health aides. And then in the summertime, we also provide CPR and first aid training. So a lot on the screen so that it's all documented and lives on, but a lot of accomplishments for 2024. I won't read every single number, but just noting how many of these services that we provide. So school-based vision and hearing screenings, 11,000 school health room encounters last school year. So that's all of the students that come down to the health room needing some sort of attention. 282 communicable disease cases. We're happy to see that coming down from the COVID-19 peaks, coming much more close to what we would have seen pre-COVID. A lot of our home visits are related to latent tuberculosis care, so providing medication and home visits to those clients that we have. We also do visits for lactation support or elderly home visits if there's a welfare check involved, or general care for usually a mother and infant. Let's see, so we have some vaccination numbers here, influenza, as well as our childhood vaccines. So we saw 37 different children, and those children received 147 total vaccines during our monthly clinics that we hold so far this year. 16 car seat fittings. We actually have 2 car seat techs now. Courtney, one of our nurses, has also been trained this year, so that's very exciting. We can do a little bit more there. Those CPR classes I mentioned, and then we also continue to host UW Oshkosh nursing students every spring and fall semester, as well as we'll often have an RN to BSN student, so someone getting their bachelor's degree who's already a licensed nurse. We should have 2 of those students next year, so we're excited to work on projects with them. So for this budget, a couple of things that are, well, really one thing that is a standout difference is that we have decided to remove the Spanish interpreter wages from our temporary wages, and we kind of increased or beefed up the line for language services because we are going to be partnering more with the Menasha Joint School District and their interpreter translation staff. We feel that this is going to really help us provide better comprehensive service, especially to our Spanish-speaking clients and residents, because they work in this building and they're very available to us. They are very responsive and very helpful. They already work closely with us on anything school-related. And they often step in during our immunization clinics because the majority of those children are Spanish-speaking children from Spanish-speaking families. So that's a little bit, or that is a change there. Kind of an offset, but overall a little bit of an increase for language services. Also just noting that we still have our agreement with the school district, so they do pay for about 50% of this 0903 or health department budget. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight here as what we're looking forward to in 2025 is we do have a DHS 140 review coming up. So if you remember that we have an admin code specifically 140 that lays out the requirements of those different levels of health departments, and we need to do a review every 5 years with the state to make sure that we're still meeting what we need to. So that is coming up in April. So we'll have quite a bit of work to make sure we're all prepped and ready to answer those questions when they come and visit us. We'd also like to continue enhancing our evaluation and our performance management, and continuing to work on the word accreditation again, accreditation readiness. It is a lot of work, and we are, we're not the smallest health department by far, but we are smaller, so we're not at the point where we feel confident in pulling the trigger on applying for accreditation, but we're always trying in everything we do to make improvements to meet those requirements. So if we ever get to that point where we feel confident, we can pull all that documentation and meet all of those requirements, that we're that much closer to doing so.
Alderman Sevenik.
You indicated on your slide here that you're removing the Spanish interpreters' wages, but yet you, under language, you have a 125% increase, so.
Yeah, so we removed, we have a very, very part-time person, and her wages are within that temp help wage line, and we are removing that portion. We also have a dental assistant, that's why there's still some money there in that line. But we are removing those funds, and we are increasing the language services line because that's how we will compensate the district in our new arrangement that we'll have. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
so it wasn't really much of a reduction.
It's really not a reduction, it's
It's
just
just a
a
switch.
movement and acknowledging that we're changing that partnership with the district, or
I just wanted to
enhancing
make
that
that clear.
partnership. Thank you. The rest on here is just noting that most of our staff are in some portion attributed to this budget. Then we have our environmental health budget, so that starts on page 309. Oh, I'm sorry.
Alderman Grady?
Thank you, Mayor. Christine, can we go back to the
Health.
301 or 302? Yeah, it's not on here, but in the budget yourself, so you have 5.42 full-time employees, and I see your computer and technology, you're looking to purchase 4 laptops for a total of $5,200.
Yes.
Are these laptops going to be used by many people, or is it, I mean?
These are
Who are they for?
scheduled replacement laptops, so
they?
we have 4 that are coming due, like, as we track them, kind of end of life, that need to be replaced, and it's for 4 individuals. So
Okay.
their work laptops.
Is yours one?
Mine is not one.
Okay.
Mine was replaced last year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so environmental health. This is our sanitarian, the bulk of our sanitarian's time. 66% of Todd's time is here, and he is responsible for basically all of these tasks and contracts and agreements that we have here. So he is an agent of the state for DATCAP. So those are all of the inspections you see here, those retail food, swimming pools, the TRHs, which are the tourist rooming houses, like an Airbnb, school food service. He also does the DSPS inspections, which would be tattoo and body piercing, and we do have a mobile home park as well. And then we also hold a contract with the DNR, so he does asbestos and commercial building and demolition compliance inspections and follow-up. So that is a revenue stream for our department. We collect a fee for every inspection that he does. He can bill for those. And then the human health hazard investigation. So anything from, air quality and lead to rabies control, those animal bite program that we had do radon. If there were to be a drug lab found, he's often involved in those and cleanup and such. In 2024, I would just call attention to certainly the number of human health hazard complaints, 39. Depending on where you sit, it may or may not seem like a lot, but oftentimes those can be very time intensive and also manpower intensive, depending on if, the police department may need to be involved. And Maggie here, Attorney Struve, helping out depending on the severity of the case. Animal bites, 42 year to date. Lots of dog and cat bites generally. And then just noting that Todd was recently appointed to the Wisconsin Retail Food Safety Advisory Council. That's under DATCAP, or the Department of Agriculture. So we're very excited and proud of him to be able to share his knowledge and experience at the statewide council. This budget really didn't experience much changes. Really the only thing is We have .025 FTE for our office coordinator on this budget now. Otherwise, Todd's time and our health educator's time is staying the same, and we really did not make any significant changes to any of the line items. It's funded by tax levy, of course, as well as our DNR contract, as I mentioned before, and any license fees by those inspections that we do. I'll just keep moving on. Okay. Next, we have weights and measures. This is also our sanitarian's program here. He's the sealer of weights and measures for the city. So that includes inspecting devices for consumer protection. So things like gas pumps, price scanners, scales, measuring of timing devices, which would be like a laundromat dryer. You might not think of that. And then essentially ensuring that you get what you pay for. In 2024 year to date, he's inspected 337 different devices. That includes gas pumps at every single gas station that we have in the city. And this budget is also very similar to previous years.
Alderman Sevenik.
Does he still use like a part-time individual to check on like in-store weights and?
Oh, yes. Well, it's our full-time public health educator who dedicates a few hours, weekly, monthly to help out with that. Yes.
Yeah, because I bumped into one at one point and didn't know who it was, and they said they worked for the city of Menasha, and I'm like, you do?
Yeah, probably checking pricing, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. And then we have employee safety. Again, this is our sanitarian's responsibility. He is also the employee safety coordinator. This is a lot of staff training to make sure that we're meeting those requirements that we have for good work practices, trying to reduce employee injuries and keeping a good work environment. Through this program, Todd also conducts respiratory fit testing, so that's testing those masks that we would need to wear if something were to happen. He will coordinate the hearing screening and also holds regular safety meetings. We have 3 different safety committees that meet related to the various buildings that we have. Also investigating those reported employee injuries, and then coordinating our purchases through that CIVMIC grant that we do still have. In 2024, we investigated 12 employee injuries and did 9 new employee safety trainings. We were also previously awarded a CIVMIC Member Spotlight Award for the QR code-based lockout tagout procedures that is implemented at the Public Works Department. So Todd helped spearhead that, and the staff over at Public Works as well, and so they have a nice QR code-based procedure, so someone can scan the QR code and get the information right on their phone. That does come with a little bit of grant money, so we were able to use that to make some additional safety-related purchases for the Public Works Department. This budget is another one that is very similar. I actually reduced the office coordinator time from .05 FTE to .025, kind of split that little bit of time in half to make it a little more equitable for the programs that she supports. So still time on employee safety, just not quite as much. We shifted a little bit over to, I think it was the environmental health program. So Todd and our office coordinator, and we still have the CIVMIC grant, as I mentioned, so that is $7,000 and matching funds. That is reflected in the department supply line. Okay, moving on, we have the health screening or 60 plus program. That's page 319. This is our older adult health screenings, education, and wellness program with funding by Winnebago County. This one, I have not heard anything about them changing our funding for what they provide us in the contract. So as far as we are aware, it's level funding. In 2024, our nurse Megan, who is attributed to this program, served 391 people for 538 services, and those services included the stepping on class that she helps facilitate, wellness lab screening, the monthly Friday fix sessions and monthly memory cafes that are facilitated at the center. And then she also provides regular blood pressure screenings and just like a wellness room time where people can go in and talk about their questions or their health concerns. She can do a lot with trying to connect them with their healthcare provider if they're having trouble understanding things or asking the right question, as well as working with the pharmacy and helping on medications. Like I mentioned, expecting no changes with our Winnebago County funding, so pretty much a level budget there. Our prevention program, page 321. This is a little bit of federal pass-through funding. So it's federal money passed through from the state of Wisconsin down to us. And it's pretty general funding for community health related issues. We are using it for general community health planning, our community health improvement planning work. And then anything related to helping us meet those national accreditation standards. And in 2024, our health educator did make some enhancements to our performance management spreadsheet or tracking system to include results-based accountability to help us measure our progress on the measures that we have and their indicators that we have. Excuse me. We also published the 2024 Community Health Assessment at the very end of December last year. While we work on a calendar year, this grant is actually in October through September, so that's why it's included in last year's funding cycle, but the 2023 published. But we are now working on our 2025 Menasha Community Health Improvement Plan. And we are also collaborating with our regional partners to complete what will hopefully be our first ever Tri-County Community Health Assessment and Improvement Plan. Those partners are predominantly the 5 local health departments in the Tri-County area and the 4 health systems, including Children's Wisconsin. And then we have actually quite a lot of community organizations participating, and we're building those partnerships as we speak. So it's really been exciting work there. And we're excited to see that continue in 2025, where we should have both that CHA, the assessment, and the CHIP, the improvement plan. It is a similar budget, although we did receive a little bit of additional funds this year, about $1,000. So, you know, that's always a good thing. It's not a ton, but it's something. School health aides. We have 5 schools that each have 1 health aide. It is our, this person can assist the students with those, you know, injuries and illnesses that might come by. They help with medication distribution, which is predominantly around the lunchtime. They're trained in CPR and responding to events that may happen in the school. And they each work about 20 hours a week, every day, about 4 hours. And let's see, in last school year, so 8,000 of those contacts with the health room were with our health aides, quite a bit. We did hire a new health aide this year to replace a resignation in the middle of last school year. We're looking to hire a position again. It's kind of tough to keep that one filled. And this is funded fully by the school district. So they pay the full wages for the school health aides, which is basically the entire budget. They pay the entire budget, but basically all wages. I think with this one, there's a decent increase reflected here, and we did increase the health aide wages this past summer. We've done it, I think this is the second time in the last 4 years, to try to get that wage up to where we think it should be as far as comparisons around the state for similar jobs. And again, working with the school district to do so. Then we have our dental program, page 325. So this is what we call Menasha Healthy Smiles, our dental program, to help prevent tooth decay in our students and our preschoolers. It's a cost-effective program. We encourage families and students finding dental homes. And with the prevention that we do, we're trying to prevent ER visits and hospital treatment, further more involved treatment needs for oral health. Last school year, over 1,200 children received oral health screening. And our dental hygienist, Claire, she provided over 500 fluoride applications and referred 95 children for treatment. For all of those kiddos, she is providing some case management services, making sure there's follow-up and follow-through with the families and connecting them with a dental office that they can be seen. As I'm sure you know, it's tricky with dental insurance specifically and finding providers that will take MA or see them at no cost. We work really closely with Partnership Community Health Center. They have dental clinics, and they are always very willing to work with us and see our students, so that is very helpful. We're also able to work a bit with Tri-County Dental Clinic too. This is pretty similar, again, to last year, a little bit of reduction in cost as we were able to shift a couple things, and also just some changes in the personnel and their benefits and such. But it is still funded predominantly by the United Way Fox Cities grant that we receive, as well as we can bill MA for services that are provided in this program. So that's the other piece of the funding. So it's fully funded by the United Way grant and MA. It is our dental hygienist and part of our dental assistance time. Communicable disease, that's a pretty simple one. It's just over $3,000 for the year. Pretty minimal, but we use this funding for our health educator position and her work using our social media, our Facebook page and our website, and messaging about communicable disease. We don't actually use it for our nursing staff doing investigations, because it just doesn't make sense for $3,000, but we're able to enhance our messaging with it. Lead poisoning prevention, page 330. Level funding here for our grant from the state. It's a little over $3,000 as well. We use this to fund part of one of our nursing staff's time, and she reviews all the reports that we receive from the State Lab of Hygiene related to lead, as well as providing resources and education to families. She sends, we call them lead packets, to families with a new baby. Year to date, she's sent 67 of those packets. And then as needed, we provide home visits, and then an investigation, a lead hazard investigation, which would be much more, it would be in a much more serious situation, a lead level that is much higher, but our nurse can go out and help anybody. Typically we use 5 micrograms per deciliter as the threshold, but even if we got something that was a little less than 5, we can still make a phone call and check in with the parents and provide resources and help them out, because there is no known safe level of lead. Budget-wise, the funding, yes, is similar. The budget itself is also similar, staff time. Then we have our immunization program, our grant, page 332. This program is really looking at immunization rates for children age 24 months or older. We have an objective to make sure that children ages 24 months are meeting those required vaccines at that age. So you'll see on here like the word benchmark, which is our goal and what we want to see for the city of Menasha kiddos of that age. We want to see, in this year, for example, our goal was 74% of them meeting the benchmark, which is all of those vaccines that are recommended for that age. You'll see last calendar year, our the number of number of children meeting the benchmark was 73%. Mid-year, so a report run through June of this year, we were at 72%. So we are hoping that by the end of the year, that number goes back up. We have 2 staff that are very involved in immunization and 1 who is co-chair of our NEWIC, which is the Northeast Wisconsin Immunization Coalition. That's other local health departments, reps from healthcare, reps from vaccine manufacturers actually as well. And then something we tried new this year to help us meet our goal and meet the goal of children being immunized is a happy first birthday flyer. So we can run reports in the Wisconsin Immunization Registry and see which babies are turning 1 year old and send them a flyer, send the parents a flyer as a reminder, to get their baby in for their 1-year checkup, which not only is immunizations, but they're going to be checking for lead now. They're going to be doing any other, developmental screening that needs to happen, and a chance for parents to, of course, just ask questions about the development of their baby. So we're tracking what we can to see if it's making a difference. Obviously, it's correlation, not causation, but we thought it would be nice to have another touch point before the baby turns 24 months or 2 years old to try to get them in and meet those vaccine goals. Budget is similar, and this is fully funded through a Wisconsin DHS grant. Okay, maternal and child health, also a Wisconsin DHS grant. The overall goal is activities to improve the health of mothers and children. In the past, we have been selecting the objective for the grant contract to improve breastfeeding rates by way of designating child care centers and or workplaces as breastfeeding friendly. We have not seen much movement on that at all in the past, 5 years. So along with others in our area, others meaning other local health departments that also have this grant and contract, we have started to move away from that. So this year we are looking at the adolescent well-being objective and decreasing rates of adolescent emotional distress. Really, it means mental health, emotional health of our adolescent age population. So we're using that to align with our community health improvement plan, whereas a priority is mental health and specifically youth mental health in our community. So that's a really nice alignment for us. And we'll see if we can try to implement some activities to move the needle in that space. We do still have an active presence in that BFAN or Breastfeeding Alliance coalition. Our health educator and one of our nurses, as they can, attend those meetings and participates, and they both, have a passion in that space. It just doesn't make sense for us to continue selecting it as an objective formally, but our nurse, Courtney, is certainly still trained as a lactation counselor, so she can help families in that way. And we would certainly still help a child care center or a workplace that, had any questions or actually wanted to be designated. We could still work with them on that. Dental sealants, so the other piece of our overall dental or oral health programming. This is separated because the funding stream is different. This is a grant from the Wisconsin Seal a Smile, about $5,000, and the rest of it is covered by MA billing as well. Pretty similar budget here, and pretty similar staffing, our dental hygienist and our dental assistant. So with this program, we provide those dental sealants as well. And last school year, 61 children received those sealants. As part of the funding and the activities that we can do, there's fluorides applied under this funding stream too. So another 484 fluoride varnishes were applied on top of what you saw in the previous slide. And Claire and our dental assistant also do oral health presentations in the schools. They're actually doing those right now in the fall time. Then we have bioterrorism, 339 is the page. This supports us in maintaining preparedness and readiness to respond to public health emergencies. In 2024, we use this funding and the deliverables for our annual influenza vaccine. We run it as a preparedness exercise for our staff internally, as well as our UW Oshkosh students that help us out. We also had an additional tabletop exercise this year, which was really nice. Our preparedness consortium leader coordinated that exercise, and we were able to participate here all together in person for us, but virtually with the other communities that are in that consortium. So that was very cool. Our health educator is our preparedness coordinator, and through the process, she's been able to work a lot on some of the more technical pieces, like putting together an incident action plan. She's worked with our consortium as well to update pieces. It's kind of a piece-by-piece thing of our emergency preparedness plan, and she did attend the 2024 Preparedness Summit. Our budget, the budget and the funding is similar. It's still the Wisconsin DHS grant. The funding really hasn't changed. And with it, we will continue doing those updates to our preparedness plan. We'll continue to run an immunization clinic for influenza, and always trying to engage with our preparedness partners. And we have a set of contract deliverables that we have to meet as part of the funding program as well. So meeting those. Funding or staff time is our health educator, and a little bit of time for our dental hygienist, who does a few specific things related to this program. All right. 24/7, very straightforward. This is just a separate fund that we use for all of our staff cell phones. Really no change or anything there. I'm sorry, page 341. And then page 343 is our health ARPA grant. So this is, as I'm sure everyone remembers, 2024 is the sunset for ARPA dollars. So we are getting very close to that. So all of our funds will be expended by the end of this year. And the work that was done this year within ARPA was we still have a limited term public health nurse working with us, and this grant funding is what is funding her position, which will sunset at the end of the year. We also worked with the Parks and Recreation Department to purchase challenge course equipment as well as fitness pad equipment for Shepherd Park. So both of those things will go into Shepherd Park. We hope in, I think, spring, maybe Ted knows better, spring of 2025, when that gets slated in, when everyone's able to do so. And really the goal there was to make an effort to improve access to and enhance our outdoor recreation opportunities in our city. And the challenge course is really kind of a new thing for the area, so that'll be exciting. We also use these funds for the city's purchase of Microsoft Office 365, our upgrade that we went through this year. And then just noting our limited term nurse really had a focus on working with our local organizations, in particular the Multicultural Coalition Inc., MCI, that's now located down here in Menasha, working on some health equity work. And she's also, I neglected to put it in here, but really worked a lot on bicycle activity in the city and bicycle safety, and getting us a head start on our bike-friendly community application that we hope to put through again when it comes for like renewal for a designation. So again, no budget, all funds are expected to be expended. Then page 346 is like supplemental vaccination funds or COVID vaccination funds. So we actually had taken this out last year and then it's back in because we had gotten an original funding stream that was a couple of years ago. We expended all of that in 2023. And then the state had funds that had been unspent, so they were offering additional awards. We requested some funding and did receive it, so that's what this is. It's the same funding pot of money. All that they have done is allow you to use the money for activities related to providing other vaccines, so not just the COVID vaccine, which was the original intent. So we, this year, have started to use the funds. We did make some purchases for items to help our clinics be friendlier for our younger children, and then for any children that have maybe some different sensory needs. It can be challenging to work with some kiddos and make them feel comfortable and willing to get their immunization. So if we can provide, like a fidget toy or something, there's also some proven like wiggle seats and things like that help the kids just feel more comfortable, get those wiggles out. We're also using this for staff time related to vaccine clinics. Again, it's a DHS grant, and in the new year in 2025, we are putting aside a portion of the funds to purchase a new vaccine refrigerator. We want to take advantage of this extra funding that we have here and make that large purchase. That's probably going to be about $9,000 to $10,000 to make sure that we don't run into a situation where we don't have a fridge that works. Because we have a lot of vaccine in there. We also will be working on hopefully a couple of projects related to messaging about vaccines, and then with a focus on trying to translate our materials more. That's a general focus of our department. These language services, it can be challenging, but we're trying our best to find ways to to improve our communication for those who speak languages other than English. And then, of course, an overall goal of increasing vaccine uptake. Personnel, it's not as cut and dry as some of the other ones because we can kind of use this as we need to use it. So there will be some wage and benefits for our nursing staff and our office coordinator as it relates to our vaccine clinic activities. Then what I believe is our last one is page 348, which is the public health infrastructure program or funding that we have here. Oops. Oh, yes. So this funding supports in general, as a general statement, building capacity to implement the public health foundational capabilities, which were on one of my earliest slides. In 2024, we used funds to support and begin our departmental strategic planning process. We're doing it fully in-house here. We're not seeking an outside facilitator, so we're supporting our staff time participating in that process with these grant funds. We also started working on that community health improvement plan that I had mentioned. So that should be published hopefully within the next couple of weeks. It's only a 24-25, really a 25 one-year plan because of that work that we're doing with our Tri-County community partners, doing a regional assessment and then plan. So it doesn't really make sense for us to duplicate that process and commit our staff to doing work in our city plan when we will probably have another plan that we will be working on or with partners on. Excuse me. This budget is, I mean, it's kind of similar as far as staff time goes, but we did include this additional $9,132 for our portion of that Tri-County Community Health Improvement Coalition consultant. So our group came together. It's a lot of different partners, a lot of different individuals and different agencies, and we really felt like we would not get to where we need to get without a professional consultant, facilitator, and also someone knowledgeable about what's called the MAP process, which is the process that we're using to do our improvement planning. We had done the group and our fiscal agent, which is United Way, did put out a bid, and we've been working with a facilitator, and the city of Menasha's portion contributing to that is that $9,000 that we're able to use this grant funding to cover. So that is, that's really good for us. So again, in 2025, some of the similar work, this community health improvement planning, there's a little bit of workforce development planning that is on my plate that I would like to do, and staff training as well, as if those needs come up that fit within this funding, we can use this funding for that. And then we do have our health educator, some of her time designated to this. This grant. And that is it. That's all of the programs. Thank you very much for going slide by slide with me.
Thank you for having it, Lord.
Yeah, you're welcome. And the right page numbers for the actual budget this time.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions for Director Hutter? Seeing none.